Hey, happy Sunday. This is PFG Live, the podcast which is both timely yet uncorrelated. Welcome aboard. We have a crew in the Discord server and a bunch of people showing up on the YouTube chat. Let's see. We have the first weather report in Discord is from southern Manitoba. Josh reports winds are 110 at 9 knots, temperature 17, dew point 14, and that sounds lovely. Let's see. Over in the YouTube, we had a couple of people checking in. The Honorable Carl Tauber checks in with 86 degrees and muggy in the People's Republic of Rhode Island. Art that makes art. Wes says it's 72 and sunny in south central Idaho. Welcome aboard, sir. Greenwood AG says it's 75 degrees. Frankenstein with thunderstorms, thunder showers in southern Idaho. We have a lot of Idaho today, don't we? Dale reports 19 degrees science and sunny in Edmonton of the Alberta of the Canada. Welcome aboard. My neighbor to the north, Warren Jones, reports Sutton, New Hampshire is mid-80s and sort of humid and partly sunny and kind of in the middle of sort of everything. Welcome aboard, Warren. Also, we had a hello from Geek Gaming News, my buddy. Hey, John. John is here, being geeky and gamey. I didn't mean gamey. You know what I meant. Okay. So, let's see. Bakafish, you made it. We were talking about you. Bakafish is with us from Tokyo, where it is dark, hot, and muggy. Tucker says it's 71 degrees. Frankenstein, cloudy, sprinkly, rainy in Buffalo, New York. Welcome aboard. Oh, that's true. We had a race condition. Okay. Evils is also first, where he reports there's temperatures. Absolutely, there are temperatures. Geek Gaming News reports it's 88 degrees in Windham, New Hampshire, with a chance of thunderstorms. Mother Nature doesn't know what's going on. Thank you, sir. That you saved me from having to do it. Arstead says it's 88 degrees. Frankenstein, 62% relative humidity in Peoria, Illinois. Ted Hyde from Eustis, Florida. That's Casa Frog Pro Resources. At Kilo Lima Echo says it's 310 at 3 knots, 10-mile visibility. Skies are broken at 2,100. Temperature 3-1. Yow. 3-1. Dew point 25. Altimeter 2.997. Remarks: don't rub hard and wash your stones. Correct. Let's see. We actually had the king of wash your stones earlier. I wonder if Silo will be here. He'll probably be catching it afterwards. Who else is coming in? Employees must wash stones before returning to work. Okay, you are our winner, Ted. Can we turn that into a sticker? Do we have your permission to turn that into a sticker? You could PM that to me or DBX, and that will become a sticker. Unix Carbide in beautiful Brooklyn, New York. It's 87 degrees and lovely. Thank you, Ted. We appreciate that. That would be a hoot. We've been doing a lot with stickers lately, as you are. You're going to, if you're not aware now, you will be. Let's see. So, yeah. Hi, guys. It's been a week. We obviously are going to talk a little bit about some new acquisitions. First things first, the report from the shop, from the Flat Cave.
Come on, Robin. To the Bat Cave.
No, the Flat Cave. The Flat Cave has been busy. If you've been following on Instagram, you will have noticed that I've been making balancing rings because I was cleaned out of balancing rings. And that is what's going on downstairs, amongst other things. CJ Stevens says, "Oh no, I'm late." Dude, this group was born late. You're okay. He says it's 88 degrees and humid in East Tennessee. Welcome aboard. He says he lost track of time listening to the latest WT. Somebody's going to have to help me with that one. I don't know what that means. So we've been making balancing rings. That's been going well. Within tolerance. Yes. I like my within tolerance. Maybe he might show up here today. We'll see what happens. We are tolerant of within tolerance. I too appeared on Within Tolerance, and if you ever want to hear my story, you can go find it. I don't remember the number, but it's in there somewhere. So balancing rings. So, there's a video on my YouTube channel, which is the B200 balancing ring in 1 minute or something like that. It's a time lapse of one of the cycles of making the balancing ring. Strongly recommend you go watch that. Oh, that's how you found me. Oh, excellent. Just wash your hands. So it takes 19 minutes to make a balancing ring. So every time I push the green button, I get a balancing ring in 19 minutes. Do you remember we did an episode a while back? We talked about this last week, I know, about what the ideal CNC cycle time was, and 19 minutes ain't it. It's really a terrible time. So once a year I go through this. We'll live with it. Let's see what else is going downstairs. We filled orders. We've caught up on stones. Everything is in stock. So if you're interested in getting some PFG stones, it's a good time to do it. Unless you want the 2-inch roundels, don't order those. Okay, there, we're all set. Let's see, stickers. All of our stickers came in, and we have more stickers coming. We're very happy with Sticker Giant. And next week we're going to introduce a new sticker. You're going to want to be around for that one. One of our fun stickers. So yeah, definitely stick around for that. So I was talking about getting an H2D. I think last week I was kind of still, waffling. And the reason I was doing that is I was waiting for a sign that it would actually turn into a tool that would help make money and be part of the shop and be part of the system. And it was last week, Wednesday, when the sign came. So, as you may or may not be aware, I'm working on a project for a client that involves drones, UAVs, and 3D printed parts. And I'm happy to report that they had some success at a recent test for one of their customers, and all of the parts on that drone were printed right here. And it worked. So we're learning a lot about filaments, and we're learning a lot about solar exposure and just stuff. We're learning a lot. But one of the things we learned was not just the size, but the ability to use a PETG layer between the support, and if you need a support, and when you're 3D printing a part, and the actual part, because when you're all done, they separate very easily without damage, which is really cool, and it reduces post-processing time. However, as you probably know, I have 4 X1Cs, Bambu X1Cs, and the X1Cs are capable of doing that, but they have to stop, change filaments, flush the single nozzle of the old filament, which in this case would have been the PLA Pro that we're actually using for our parts, and flush it enough that it's truly cleaned out, and then load up the PETG that it's going to use for the interface, and then go ahead and print the interface. So that's a lot of time. And if you have supports at multiple layer heights, then every time it hits that layer height, it has to go through that cycle. It has to cycle to the support material, put down the support material, then it has to cycle back to the original printing material, and then keep going. And that could really add up. It adds up in time and it adds up in waste, because what happens is that it poops. All those sections of flushing the filament have to go somewhere, and they go out the back, and it makes for poop. So the H2D is a larger printer in the Bambu line. It's about 325 millimeters cubed, roughly. The X1C is 255 millimeters cube, roughly. So it does have a size advantage, but the numero uno big difference is it has a dual nozzle. So you could have your PETG material in one nozzle and your PLA material in the other nozzle. And when it goes to switch, I want to talk about that. When it goes to switch, all it has to do is poop out a little teeny bit just to prime the nozzle, and then it goes to work. So the time is way reduced. And that had me excited. So I'm like, okay, this could be a thing. But I wasn't going to push the button on it just to buy a new tool. Who doesn't want to buy a new tool? I wanted to see if this was going to help with this project. Well, on Wednesday, we have this meeting, and it turns out that, we're going to be ramping up some production. We're getting there. We're getting there, Dale. So I'm talking about all this stuff, and Dale, of course, up in Canada, said that he was pushing me to get an H2D, because he got an H2D and an X1C. I think he was the recipient of a little peer pressure, months back. So now he was pushing me. Well, John Saunders, this is the history. John Saunders started most of this, because John, and yes, I am sporting a Saunders Machine Works hat today in honor of him. John bought the X1C back when I had Prusas. I had a bunch of Prusas. John had I don't know if he had a Prusa or something else. Maybe somebody could remind me. Finally, John was convinced to go buy an X1C, and he just was gushing about this printer and how magnificent it was, and how it just works. It does all this automated stuff, and stuff was just working. So I said, okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to get rid of, what did I do? I sold one, or I didn't sell it. I donated it. I donated one Prusa. I bought the X1C. I think this is the order of operations. The X1C then was doing the work of at least the two Prusas. And this is going to sound familiar in a second. So I donated all the Prusas to the high school, ended up with 3 X1Cs, and then bought a 4th X1C about 3, 4, 5 months ago. I don't exactly remember when that was, but so I ended up with 4 X1Cs. And of course, John was right. This is a good printer, and this started becoming the production machines. So every time you see a tray for PFG Stones, or a lid for PFG Stones, those are all made on the X1Cs. And I use a method called, walk by production. If the spreadsheet says I need 3 trays of this size, as I go down to the basement, it's all in the memory cards. I just go to a printer, say, yeah, make 3, make those, go over another one, make those, and just keep walking. And it's very reliable. So time passes. Time passes, and Dale starts giving me grief about the H2D. He says, no, you really ought to get one. You really ought to get one. Well, one day, a couple of weeks ago, I will address that in a second. A couple of weeks ago, I get this email from John Saunders, and I think it was on an email address that I don't usually see from him. So he sends me this email, and he says, "This is really me. This is not spam. Please see the attached, and if you don't understand it, I will call me and I'll explain." Well, in the prior podcast, you may recall, I said the words, "When I come up with a reason to buy the H2D, I will buy the H2D." Well, if you're watching on video, here's the email attachment that I got from John Saunders, which was a PDF that looked exactly like this. It was a horizontal 8.5 by 11 formatted sheet, and in the middle, in bold, all caps, it says, "This is a reason." So I'm like, okay, enough already. But those things all helped for sure. Evil says, "Let it not be said you can't be swayed by reason." I would say a reason, but yes, thank you very much. But we had that meeting and it was successful, and the droney stuff was going really well, and something was about to ramp up. And I said, okay, now's the time. So I did, in fact, get the printer. I bought the printer from Micro Center in Cambridge, Mass. I paid mass sales tax, but I didn't pay any shipping. The fact that I was able to go down there, Jared and I drove down, pick it up, put it in the truck, drive it back, and they didn't have the AMS Pros in stock. They were out of stock. So I ended up getting, and there you could see the AMS Pro on top of the printer. I ended up getting one from Bambu directly, and it shipped from somewhere in the United States, and it was here in literally 2 days. So we're now up and running. I think I took a picture earlier. Let's see for you guys on video. Yeah, here's the setup. Okay. So there's the setup. It's super simple. There's the H2D. One AMS Pro is sitting on top. One AMS Pro is sitting next to it. Final configuration TBD. And then just last night, I was able to reconfigure my computer rack and free up a 1500 volt amp UPS, and that is what's now also sitting next to it. So this is all working great. Let me address some things that came in chat, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of my discoveries of initially bringing up the H2D. So Greenwood AG says contamination is a problem too, even after flushing. Yes. So this is another reason that the dual nozzle was of great interest. Ironically, the material we're printing the parts out of is white, and the PETG I'm using for the supports is black. So it's black and white. It's real easy to see the contamination, and using the recommended flushing volume, not Queens, Unix, we're not talking about Queens. The flushing volume is set in the slicer, and it does, the Bambu Studio slicer does some serious calculations, and it says this is how much you should flush, but you can multiply that. There's a multiplier. Well, I ended up in the X1C ramming the multiplier up to 3. So it was a pretty, I'll just say it. It took a pretty long poop, but it cleaned out nicely, not perfectly. And this can affect strength. So be advised that this is a concern. But it turned out that a flushing volume multiplier of 3 looked pretty darn good when you look at it. And seeing as we're using black and white, it's pretty easy to detect if there's any contamination. Hey, Chop Smitty has checked in. He says, hot and humid here in Hawaii. So the AMS Pro drying feature on the H2D is a game changer for me. My HT AMS arrives Friday. Awesome, Chop Smitty. Nice to hear it. So you could confirm some of the stuff. So that was my introduction to using the PETG interface layer, of course, first in the X1C. So having the dual nozzles, see how I do that? Having the dual nozzles in the H2D eliminates the contamination problem, right? It also eliminates a slowdown problem, because now you don't have to spend all this time flushing the nozzle. You don't have to spend all this time, pulling back filament from your single nozzle, feeding your new filament to the single nozzle. It's way faster, and it enables that, and that was the selling point. Total selling point. In fact, Jared said something to me about getting the one with the laser in it. I'm like, I don't want the laser. I don't care about the laser. So that was what pushed me over the edge. That plus the business prospect was on an uptick. And I'm like, all right, this is the right time. So the shop right now, let's see if I can show you this picture. There's the there's the setup. You can see the 4 X1Cs on the left and the new H2D on the right. Now you might say to yourself, wow, what a coincidence and what a lucky accident that you have this bench set up, on the other side of the aisle there. It's no accident. That was not only is that bench there for a reason, but right above it is electrical outlets, which are there for a reason. So we saw this coming. Oh yeah, Tucker says, glad I had no influence. You were also part of the problem. I mean, solution. So yeah, Tucker, if you don't follow Tuck's Garage, you should. I think Tuck has consumed more filament than any 3 of us. And yes, any 3 of us. Tucker is Iron Man. There, I said it. Okay, I said it. So that's the setup. So, I had we went down. We got the printer. Oh, I want to address a question from a Geek Gaming News. By the way, if you are a geek or a gamer, look up Geek Gaming News, new channel on YouTube, and just starting up. That's John, my buddy, and check it out. But Geek Gaming News is it possible to purchase a limited edition forest green tray for my stones? John, I love you. And the answer, of course, is no. See, the red dual tray is part of the trade dress. So we that's one of our trademarks, okay? So no, we would not make that in green. Sorry. So sorry. There you go. One of my best friends, I'm telling him no. So I'm serious. I'm serious. We get the printer down here. We get the thing assembled. It went very smoothly. Exactly. I have one complaint. Really, just one. Seriously, I have one complaint for Bambu. So Bambu, listen up. They tell you have to remove a bunch of screws. Everything gets screwed. It's really a fantastic shipping job. And it's very much like the X1C was, only bigger. The 2 screws that are in the back, straddling the rear screw, there's 2 screws, and you cannot see them. I mean, without using a mirror, you cannot see them. And we found them, we got them out. There was no issues, but it was all done by Braille. And it was hard to know that they were there without being super careful reading the instructions. And the fact that there were 2 was not obvious. We got it out. I mean, I'm looking for something to complain about, but that was it. So other than that, it went together really nicely. The AMS2 Pro, plug it in, turn it on, and we immediately printed a Kiki, which I left downstairs, of course. But the Kiki came out beautifully, and then the next thing I printed was the my card bar, my cardboard label bar for the top of the AMS, and that was pretty simple. And then I started working on the project, and this is where some learning started happening. So the learning came from, okay, I did this PETG interface layer with supports on the X1C. I'm just going to march over to the H2D and yeah, I'll tell you what. Okay, so Chop Smitty says, really need a ball drive Allen key for those screws. Yes, a ball drive Allen key, absolutely. Also, the short side of, so if you I happen to accidentally have one of these sitting on the desk. The short side of the Allen key that they give it to you, you have it in the kit, is just a little too long, and the other end is not a ball. And the combination of those two things is you kind of start hitting things with the short end of the Allen wrench, to the extent that they actually put a piece of tape somewhere where they knew you were going to be hitting it. So yeah, guys, give us a ball end Allen wrench and maybe even shorten up the other side, which I don't think we used at all. We just used the long side. Thank you, Shop Smitty. We do not have a patent on ellipsoids. However, ellipsoids feature prominently in our trade dress. I don't want to get into the whole IP discussion here. That's another podcast. Bakafish, you're a troublemaker, and I appreciate that. So the first thing is I go over to H2D, I bring up my model, and I say, hey, slice it, and here, use my profile for this filament. And I go looking for my profiles, and all of my profiles have been shuffled off into a category called unsupported. And I couldn't get to my profiles. These are my filament profiles. I started getting unhappy. Now, two things changed between the last time I had sliced a model and now. One is they updated Bambu Studio. The other is I got the H2D. So one of the problems in engineering is that when two things change, you don't know what the change was. And this is exactly what happened. So I had to back up, go and try to slice something for the X1C. Well, that worked fine. In other words, my custom profiles for my filaments were there. And I breathed a sigh of relief. And then I went back and said, okay, now we're going to slice a file for the H2D. And that's where they shuffled them all to unsupported. So I actually looked at the profiles to see what a profile looked like. I had to do one more step. The other step is I had to create a new simple custom profile for the H2D from one of the other filaments. So I sucked in a filament, I made some modifications, and I saved it so that I had a file to compare it to. Well, it turns out that if you go into deep in your structure, in your directory structure, in Windows, it was under your C drive, users, the username, app data, which is hidden. You have to unhide things. Under app data, Bambu Studio, under that, eventually you get to filaments. And I was able to pull up, it's a JSON, JSON format. I was able to pull up my old profiles and this new profile I just made. Oh boy, is there a difference. So the profile for the X1C was relatively short. And it basically said in, nicely formatted JSON, it said, yeah, base it on this and then change these things. Boom. And those were my custom changes. Then you go over and you look at the profile for the H2D, and it was huge. Like, they put a lot more stuff in that. I'm like, okay, guys, I get it. You're going to be this is a brand new world. So what I did is I went through and I started reproducing for the H2D each of my profiles, which I did successfully. Put an asterisk on that because this may come up again, and you'll see why. So then I went ahead and I sliced the file that I wanted to print using the supports plus the PETG interface layer. And actually, I ended up making a very big file. So that was stupid. I should have made a tiny, and I might go back and do this, make a tiny test article and then go print that. But this was, work that has to get done, of course, by tomorrow or the day after tomorrow or whatever. And I had trouble. I watched it, eagerly. It printed the first layer out of the PLA material, the PLA Pro material, and then it loaded up the support material, and it changed nozzles. I can't do that. Can I do that? It changed nozzles, which was cool, and I watched it start up. And after a while, I think the first one was in person, I saw blobs, and it was like, ugh, that's terrible. And I paused it, tried to clean up the blobs. So long story short is I had a complete failure on that first layer when it started putting down the support materials, the support interface with the PETG. And I went through 4 cycles of that, and I gave up. So I was hoping to have something to show you, but clearly I'm missing something. So I have a process. I think I have a picture I could show you. Yeah, here's a picture I could show you. So if you're on video, there it is. There's a support, a layer of the PETG, and then the part. So this works on the X1C, and I couldn't get started on the H2D. I'm doing something wrong. I will find it. It's going to take a little time. But that's what's holding me up right now. So I'm probably going to make a small test article, and because it's going to be a lot easier. Another thing about the H2D is it takes a lot of time to start a print. It takes, and Dale told me about this. He's absolutely right. It takes far more time to go from 0 to printing on the H2D than it does on the X1C. Mostly because it does all sorts of really magnificent measurements and foreshadowing on the H2D, and then it starts printing. So this big print was a pain in the neck because it used the whole surface of the build plate, and I told it I wanted it to do bed leveling, and it just took a lot of time. It took a lot of time to rapidly fail. And I will report back when I figure out this process error that I have, and see what's going on. But it's exactly the same materials I was doing on the X1C. And the results from the X1C using that technique were magnificent. I mean, really nice. So, and Dale's done it on his. Dale, have you done the PETG interface trick on both machines? That's something I hadn't gotten around to asking you. Yeah, so we're gonna have to talk. It's probably some parameter somewhere that is in the wrong spot that I failed to catch, and we'll catch it. We'll get that sorted out. So we got the that's where I'm at. That was the latest news from H2D land, and it works, but I don't have my support figured out yet. Art That Makes Art says, I don't understand why they have to measure every time. They don't. There's some settings. Hang on. They are CNC machines. Why can't they remember from one point to print to the next? So in defense of the H2D, and it's better than the X1C, they now have a setting for bed leveling and such called auto. So they now have logic in the printer that says, has anything happened that justifies, re-leveling the bed? If yes, level the bed. If not, don't level the bed. And that happens under auto. Robin, welcome aboard. So Robin's in the chat. I know Robin and I talked a while back on the X1C, and he said, well, once I do it once for the day, I turn it off, and it's been fine. Absolutely. Well, now there's an auto setting. I don't know if the X1C has inherited it. I don't think so, but the H2D has the auto setting, so it doesn't have to. I was forcing it for reasons, and I could turn that off or switch it to auto more accurately. Chop Smitty says, I'm waiting for the HT to do dual head printing. I don't know which the HT is. Sorry. Bakafish says, is no one going to ask, what about the Pro? Was that a left-handed way of actually asking about the Pro? So Bambu announced the H2D Pro. HT is the other single AMS. Oh, the little guy. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, HT stands for high temperature AMS HT. Got it. So the that's the single bay, holds one spool, but it can dry and maintain a high temperature for fancy filaments. You could do dual head printing. You just need two of them. I don't think I think that's the intent, is that you can buy two of them. But I don't know. I'm not diving into the very exotic filaments that require high temperatures at the moment, except maybe a little bit of ABS glass filled, which is a nice filament. And thank you, Clow42, for introducing me to it. So anyway, the everything's working, but my process has a mistake in it, and I will find it. The other thing that and Dale, this is a piece of information for you coming up soon. I wanted to get this on a UPS. I wanted to get this on an uninterruptible power supply. All of my other printers are on an uninterruptible power supply. If you look closely at this bench with the X1Cs, you'll see stuck in between the four printers is a UPS. All four X1Cs run happily off of a 1500 volt amp UPS. I use the APC brand, and it's the professional level unit. Okay, and no problem. I've never seen an overload or anything, even though theoretically, if they're all heating at the same time, maybe you can approach the limit. So I wanted to get the H2D similarly on a UPS. Well, I rearranged things in my data rack, and I freed one up because I did have one too many there, and it's now running on that APC 1500 volt amp UPS. Well, I am happy to report that it is able to support that printer. It's not going to support two of them. The first time I fired up the H2D while running on the UPS rated, which is sold as a 1500 volt amp unit, and it's rated for 1440 something. It hit the limit. It didn't trip out, but it sounded an alarm. It put up an out of balance condition on the display, and it was complaining madly. Interestingly, and it was reporting 1.4 kilowatts. So when the H2D starts up to print, it will start pulling 1.4 kilowatts. So that's over 10 amps when plugged into the wall, okay, here in these United States running 115 volts. That's impressive. However, it does it for not a terribly long amount of time. I would say it might be 1 minute, and then the current drops down to 300 watt type numbers. That's the power, not the current. Don't send me any postcards. So that was interesting to watch and to have metered. But it's fine and it works. All I had to do was turn off the beeper and then it's perfectly reasonable. So that's a data point for you. So one of those UPSs will happily run the one H2D. If I had my druthers, I would say to Bambu, give me an option to lower that heating current spike to 1/2 the value and take twice as long. The reason I say this is it's so fast in coming up to whatever it decided was sort of the the minimum temperature or the stable temperature, like literally 1 minute. I would happily pay another minute for it to take twice as long and not hit 1.4 kilowatts. That would be a request. Maybe it could be a software option, because the rest of the setup, the rest of the fixing to get ready to print takes a lot longer than that. So that's a data point. You can't skimp on the electrical supply to this printer. Chop Smitty says he uses the same APC and can report identical results. Yeah. So it's perfectly fine. It's just perfectly fine. And if you start pricing out a 3,000 volt amp APC, you'd better be seated comfortably. I think that unit is $700 or something. I did buy one for the other bench, but this one I had. So, that was a challenge. I think it's very important for the 3D printing that I do and I have planned, to have backup power on it. The file that I'm about to run on the H2D, like the first revenue run, is 16 hours. And it would be awful to be 15 hours into that print and then have a power glitch. I would invent new words. I would become a wordsmith. I'd be a loud wordsmith. So that's what the APC UPS does for me, is it prevents that from being a problem. Baka Fish brings up a good point. He says, I found that the monthly self-test on my UPS ended up causing a hard-to-trace power interruption until I replaced the batteries, make sure they are fresh. So I think that's pretty dependent on the brand and type of UPS. I don't think mine will do that. However, that's a 5-year-old UPS, and I put brand new batteries in it last night. So when I put this into this service and took it out of the other service where it was running one computer, I actually had a brand new set of batteries waiting for it, and I started with fresh batteries. Baka Fish says he only uses APC. Yeah, excellent. We seem to have an agreement here. Unix Carbide says, one more UPS thing. Power stability is improved considerably for printing. Reprinting. Power stability is improved considerably for printing. I think that just represents violent agreement. Is that what you're saying, Unix? And if you want to Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think it's pretty important. And it would be really cool. We didn't talk about the H2D Pro. In the H2D Pro 2, listen up, Bambu, it'd be really cool if you built the UPS in and maybe just have the batteries be external if you want them or something like that. But I think some UPS support would be appropriate, especially in professional applications. So they came out with an H2D Pro. I didn't go too deep into it. The only things that really it brings to the table is, number one, it doesn't use Wi-Fi. It has a hardwired Ethernet connection. Was there a number two? I don't even know. Oh, and the e-stop button. Well, because of course you need an e-stop button on the side of your printer. I believe that that's a commercial play, and I'll put a finer point on that, is in applications where a wireless connection is unacceptable, that's the play, and the e-stop button is also probably part of some standard that says you have to have an e-stop button. I have no interest in the Pro, but from a business standpoint, I respect that they had to come out with it. So, yes, Josh says, don't the laser models have that? The laser models have the e-stop also for a different reason, because laser.
Frickin' laser beam.
So those guys have to have an e-stop on them, besides all the green glass and filters and stuff like that. I had no interest in the laser. So, yeah, that's the story. Carbide nozzles. So the nozzles that come with it are hardened steel, for sure. They're not brass, they're hardened steel. But the X1Cs had hardened steel nozzles also. And again, I'm not doing the crazy stuff, so I'm not too whipped up about it. Hey, AB Shop has checked in. Welcome aboard, sir. He reports 30 degrees Celsius near Venice, Italy. Good evening from Alberto. Alberto, welcome aboard. Nice to see you. Overall impressions. Its motions and everything are very quiet, very smooth, very, compared to the X1C, I think it ends up being a quieter printer, which is strange but true. When it does its startup, there are some clackety clacks that happen, which of course is the opposite of what I just said, which are pretty interesting. And if you watch the mechanisms, it's flipping some things, which are the things that push the buttons that cut the filament. And there's one on each side, so there's all sorts of interesting gyrations that it goes through when it starts up. The lighting inside the chamber, I know this seems minor, but it's actually pretty nice, is much improved. They have mood lighting. Jared said, "Oh look, RGB gamer lighting." Yeah, it has gamer lighting, which is kind of cool. You could see it on the front lip of the bed. And it indicates progress, and it indicates alarms, and it does stuff like that. Because it's so tall, it's a very tall printer. Okay. Bakafish says that the H2D Pro has tungsten carbide nozzles. Okay. Awesome. They had to do something else. It's a very tall printer. I think I measured it as 7 inches taller than the X1C, or 7 or 8 inches. So the little LCD screen, the touch screen, in my case, remains folded flat up against the chassis, whereas on the X1C, it's tilted out. It's very, it's a simple, small difference, but it's a definite difference. Yeah, Tuck says it's very tall. It is. It's quite tall. Now, John Saunders, sent me some pictures of his setup. He uses this low table to put the printer on, which I think is pretty brilliant. And then he's got the two AMSs stacked. So in his case, it's got to be kept really low. Otherwise, you'll never get to the top AMS, which is the reason I'm not stacking mine. Another minor thing, the glass door on the H2D opens up 180 degrees. On the X1C, I don't open it more than 90 degrees because it's not meant to go all the way and you can crack something. That was a nice touch. Okay. Of course, there's linear guide rails in the H2D and they're very quiet. It's really quite nice. What else? Oh, the nozzle cleaning is crazy. So they really did improve the nozzle cleaning on the H2D. So it does its usual dribbling, and then it scrapes off the little poop that it just made with a little mechanism, which is kind of cool. It goes clackety clackety, and then it goes through this very interesting V-shaped widget to clean the nozzle. Thank goodness, because I actually started using an aftermarket wiper in the X1C to clean the nozzle well on the sides, and now the new one does it, and that is also quite nice. And then it has its own little abrasive areas where it wipes the nose. It does a whole bunch of cleaning, and I like it. Tucker asks, did I have any misalignment of the filament cutter when I received the unit? Not that I was able to detect. I think everything is fine. Knocks on wood. Yeah. What else? There's still the glass on top, but you're too short to look through it. So the glass is on top. It's very nice for cleaning and stuff, but it's way up there if you have it on a regular counter. Oh, that's what huge difference. And Dale showed me video of this, weeks and weeks ago, and on his printer, but I didn't appreciate it until I got my printer. The thing sits on these dampers, these big, cushy, gushy rubber dampers on 4 points. And when it is printing, like moving fast, that thing is wiggling around like crazy. So you must plan on leaving at least a half an inch, if not more, on the sides so that it doesn't literally hit anything. Oh yeah, Tucker says, must keep away from walls. It really wants to move, and you should let it move, and it's designed to move. So it wiggles around quite a bit. It's disconcerting the first time you see it. So if you're going to do 16-hour prints or more, you're going to need, in my opinion, you need a UPS. You need a reliable place for it. You need here's another thing that you need to do is you need to strain relieve the power cord. So the power cord gets plugged in, standard connector, into the back of the unit. I haven't done this yet, but I would take a wire anchor and attach it to the back of your bench, and then wire tie that power cord so that it has a little service loop, and then it's tied to the table. So it can move a little bit, but it's not going to flail around the power cord and then loosen itself up. That would be awful. It also has this little, it's basically a short circuit, this little power enable connector on the back. That must be where the e-stop plugs in. I wouldn't know, but you have to put the little plug in there. Not a big deal. Oh, so when we got the unit, the plugs are overhead in the basement, okay, to plug it in. And the supplied power cord, of course, was too short. That wasn't a problem because it's a standard connector, and we're all set now. Now it's using the standard power cord because you have the UPS sitting next to it. So that's working out pretty good. But you have to think reliability for these long prints. And The AMSs work as good as the previous AMSs. The big difference with the AMS Pro 2 is the tubes that the filament travels through, that if you're using crunchy, undried PLA, you may break your filament and get it in the tubes. You have to clean them out. On the old AMSs, you had to disassemble the AMS to get to the tubes. On the new one, the tubes are in the bottom. You open the top and you can see them. Trivially easy to get to them, which I hope I don't need to, but there they are. Dale reports that the RFID performance, when you use the Bambu spools, it has an RFID tag in it. Dale reports excellent performance on that. I had abandoned RFID because the performance sucked in the X1C. Now, I believe that when the X1C came out, I know you knew I was going to go there. They were using the wrong antenna on the board. I have to go back and confirm this, but I remember looking, when I'm disassembling the AMS to find a broken piece, because I had one of those. I remember looking at the RFID module and looking at the antenna, and it was not the right antenna. It was a dipole antenna. Now, I could be wrong. I'm going to double check on this. I will report back, but I also can report that the new ones absolutely have loop antennas, which they should, and they do. So that is actually good. And why that is so is a topic for another day. But the RFID, and I can confirm the RFID worked on all of the Bambu spools that I put in that loadout, and that was good. So that's the report from Hoople. This thing, once I solve my stupid PETG interface problem, which I'm sure I'm going to find a checkbox somewhere, which I didn't check, this thing is making money for me. That's great news. And its features are going to get used. And I didn't buy the laser one, and I didn't buy the vinyl cutter. That stuff is of no use, no interest. And it's bigger. Did I mention it was bigger? It's bigger. So if you guys have any questions, fire them out right now, and we'll start wrapping this thing up. But I'm pretty happy with it. So anyway, thank you very much to Dale and Tuck and John Saunders for badgering me about this printer. And maybe next week we'll get a chance to say thank you in another way. John. So if you guys have any questions, we'll take them. Tucker says, I'm waiting for just the vinyl cutter add-on for the non-laser model. Are they going to do that? Is there going to be a vinyl cutter for the non-laser model? Okay, we'll keep our fingers crossed for you. I know Sam got a Cricut, which is a little widget that just does that. But that's the only thing better than having a vinyl cutter is having a friend with a vinyl cutter, or a kiddo. Either way. AB Shop says bed temperature is very important, more with high accelerations, to be sure that the head will not detach the printing stuff. Absolutely true. I can report that the bed on this thing is well controlled. I should say the chamber is well controlled. So they have chamber temperature controlled. They have the bed temperature controlled. And it all seems to work. Oh, the H2D also has those automatically opening vents. So for certain filaments on the X1C, I leave the top. I made these risers, which we've talked about, or I've shown pictures of them before. You can see them here. The top can be yoinked. There's one open, right? The top could be yoinked up. Oh, actually, I have a picture. Give me a second. I will show you exactly what I'm talking about, because I took a picture of it earlier. Let's see. There it is. There. So when I'm doing the PLA material and actually the PETG material for the trays, I will open the top. Now I printed these aftermarket risers that allow you to take the top glass and just lift it up an inch. And also I leave the door open a little bit, and that works really well, especially when the basement is a lot warmer than normal, which it is now. So I do that. Well, the H2D has its own vents that it opens up. And there's one right above the top edge in the front, and there's in the back, there's a whole bunch of louvers that open up also. So it controls its own venting. And so far that works pretty good. I will point out Chop Smitty says, lift the H2D with a friend. It's porky. It is pretty porky.
You keep using the word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Yeah, it's a heavy printer. I think it was listed as 35 kilograms. I think it was said on the box, but it is pretty heavy. And Jared helped me with unboxing and getting it all set up. Yeah, don't put anything on the top ledge, because you'll be putting it right on top of a vent. Functional Print Friday reported some issues when he was making maximally sized big flat prints. And he was concerned that it was getting undervented. And when he went in and did some software modifications to increase the venting, he had good results. I have not had that issue, but happy to refer you to Functional Print Friday. He's a good guy, great channel. He's got an H2D. He's got some other printers, and he focuses on printing functional prints, mostly on Friday. What a shocker. He decreased the venting. Well, I don't remember, but I do know that he needed to modify the venting when he was doing a print a couple of months ago. So check it out. He's a good follow. Excellent follow. And Geek Gaming News, John says, inconceivable. Absolutely correct. With that, unless I see some questions pop in, we're going to wrap this up. Thanks for being here. So next week, I don't see any particular impediment to us being here together again. If you have questions, comments, or suggestions, don't hesitate to DM me, either via the Discord or in the comments below. And I read all the comments and respond to all the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. CJ would tell me to remind you to hit that like and subscribe button. And we'll see you next week. In the meantime, get flat, stay flat, and keep your filament dry. We'll see you next week.